Whether it be striking pure terror with a single glance, nailing his signature vocals and notable laugh, or simply owning it in a pair of fishnet stockings, it's fair to say Tim Curry is a man of great versatility. Given his talent, it's no surprise that Tim Curry's roles expand over a diverse range of TV shows and cinema, maybe more than fans realize. His career has stemmed across theater, film, television, and he even released a few rock albums. Tim Curry's Devil in Legend is ranked as one of the top satanic performances of all time. He nailed his role as Wadsworth in Clue, and Curry has also done plenty of voice acting. Of Tim Curry's TV shows, films, and more, which are the most impressive? In the role that is now synonymous with his name, Curry nailed his performance as Dr. Frank-N-Furter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Frank-N-Furter is a mad scientist and, of course, a sweet transvestite from the planet Transylvania. Bringing a great deal of gravitas to such a manically comedic character, Curry's tremendous bellow of a singing voice made him the right man for the job. Curry originally played Frank-N-Furter in the theater incarnation of the Rocky Horror Show. At the time it was made, there weren't many male actors who could own a corset and stockings with such confidence. Having gained enough popularity in the UK, the show toured for about a year in America. Unfortunately, due to travel regulations at the time, Curry was the only cast member brought over from England, and he left after 6 months to star in the film. Back in 1990, one of Stephen King's most popular books was adapted into a TV miniseries. Looking back now, Tim Curry's performance as the infamous Eater of Worlds and Children, Pennywise the Clown, is one thing that stands out. Not having the same access to special effects technology as its successor in 2017 takes nothing away from Curry's twisted performance. His portrayal of Pennywise is the perfect balance of cartoonish and sinister, which is evidenced the first time we see his face in clown makeup. In issue number 99 of Fangoria, Curry says, "I personally think that what is the most horrifying is the moment of decision behind somebody's eyes when they decide to kill somebody, rather than a pint of blood and a pound and a half of latex," perfectly encapsulating his version of Pennywise. Like our content? Make sure to follow us. Darkness, aka the Devil, has been personified in many different forms over the years. Ridley Scott's legend is very Shakespearean and operatic, making it the perfect environment for Curry's version of darkness. In fact, Scott himself was reminded of Tim Curry's over-the-top dramatics in the Rocky Horror Picture Show when thinking of who to cast for the darkness. Curry endured hours of painful prosthetics to become Scott's version of the Devil, but when he caught a glimpse of his 13-foot reflection in the mirror, he realized he embodied the characterizations of one of the darkest incarnations in human history perfectly. If there is anything procedural dramas are known for, it's hiring big-shot actors to guest star as a one-off character. In the Season 6 episode of Criminal Minds, The Longest Night, Curry plays Billy Flynn, a prolific serial killer turned spree killer, and as an actor well known for playing the evil doer, Curry certainly doesn't disappoint. Though Criminal Minds introduces a new villain each episode, Flynn is someone who stands out as particularly haunting. At one point he even says, "The question isn't why do I end people? The question is, why I don't end everybody." Not only was he rated one of the series' most notorious criminals, he was also nicknamed the Prince of Darkness, a similar title to the character he played in 1985's Legend. A satirical comedy based on the board game of the same name, Clue is a dark comedy cult classic, whodunit, picture. Curry worked alongside a number of comedic actors, including Eileen Brenna, who he referred to as one of the funniest people in the world. Fortunately, Curry was still able to stand out in a part which he dubbed, "about as big as the Bible." He balanced buffoonery and sophistication perfectly as Wadsworth, the hilarious British butler. In 1993's The Three Musketeers, Tim Curry's Cardinal Richelieu attempts to form an alliance between France and Great Britain via less than honest methods. Cardinal Richelieu is an evil royal advisor who emphasizes intimidation through his pettiness. Curry also adds a level of humor to the role, however, by sarcastically asking prisoners, "Do you object to losing your head?" Though the film itself was not well received, Curry's performance was lauded by critics. One in particular described him saying, "Good old Tim Curry chews up the scenery perfectly with his big eyes, red flowing attire and devilish goatee, doing his best to try and beat Alan Rickman's dastardly Sheriff of Nottingham." A story that is well known to audiences in a role which has had many interpretations on screen over the years, Tim Curry was still able to bring something new to the character of Long John Silver and is arguably one of the most memorable pieces of Muppet Treasure Island. Curry is able to be his usual villainous, animated, overdramatic self. His gravitas adds more weight to the infamous scene in which Long John rose out of Jim's In Our Lives. Though Curry is known for his grandeur, here he proves he can still emotionally affect the audience. And thankfully, being a Muppet movie, Curry is also able to do what he does best, sing. Tim Curry hopped on board for the sequel to one of the biggest Christmas movies of all time, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. With his marvelously animated performance, and especially his Grinch-like smile, as the sinister concierge at the Plaza Hotel, Curry ends up being just as memorable as Kevin McAllister in the Wet, Sorry, Sticky, Bandits. Once again he manages to develop a character that was only on screen for a short period of time. Initially being shown as a threatening, intimidating, grown-up figure who looks down, literally, at Kevin with suspicious eyes on their first encounter, only to end with us looking down at him as he comically crawls along the floor, terrified of the child's ruse. In a movie which promotes an environmental cause using a story about fairies being threatened by humanity and their destructive force towards nature, Tim Curry helms the role of the main antagonist in the form of a toxic pollution-like being, Hexus. After being set free by one of man's machines, he slowly transitions from slurring his words in a sludge-like fashion, to busting out toxic ballads. It's certainly difficult to not be somewhat seduced by this charming mass of pollution. In 1982's Annie, Curry makes an appearance as Agatha's con artist brother, Daniel "Rooster" Hannigan, who is undoubtedly the main antagonist. With his powers of versatility, Curry's performance reassembles that of a guys and dolls wise guy. Rooster's darker personality is gradually revealed. From striking his sister to holding the safety of a child in little to no regard, it's hard to believe this is an infamous family movie. Curry, however, makes the transition from good to evil believable and seamless. Tim Curry voices the overzealous, delightfully eccentric explorer Nigel Thornberry in The Wild Thornberrys. Interestingly, Curry is less recognizable in the role, likely because Nigel isn't particularly sinister. In fact, Nigel is nothing more than a goofy father with an incredible sense of adventure. Having somewhat of an animated presence about his person anyway, Curry becomes one of the most entertaining, or should we say, smashing, central characters. With a singing voice as unique as Curry's, it's strange to think that his career as a rock musician isn't as popular as his acting. Curry tried his hand as a musician in the late 70s and early 80s, recording 3 notable albums. His first album, Read My Lips, was released in 1978, followed by his second and most commercially successful album, Fearless, in 1979, and his third and final album, not counting movie soundtracks, Simplicity, in 1981. Anyone who appreciates Tim Curry's musical numbers might be interested in his rock career as well, especially with his vocal range, as he slots into the category of solo artist comfortably. Curry says it best himself when he sings I Do the Rock on 79's Fearless. Darth Sidious, one of the most evil villains ever on the silver screen, is also one of Curry's most notorious roles. With such an imposing presence in the live-action Star Wars films, producers of the animated Clone Wars series needed someone who could communicate that same facade with their voice alone. Known for using his voice to impart a more villainous persona, Curry was the perfect choice for the role. He took over the position after the legendary Ian Abercrombie, the former Darth Sidious, passed. Not playing the main role, but certainly playing one of the pivotal characters, Curry stars as Herkimer Homolka, the Romanian supposed philanthropist. He leads an expedition team into the jungle in search of the lost city of Zinj. Giving off sinister vibes from the start, we slowly learn about his ulterior motives and financial difficulties. Sadly, his greed gets the better of him and he meets his end at the hands of ravenous apes. Per usual, Curry brings just the right amount of dramatics to the role, providing humor to the villainous character. In a parody of multiple horrors released at the time, this comical sequel to the original Scary Movie has a similar setting to 1999's House on Haunted Hill. The remake was based on the 1959 film starring the legendary Vincent Price, another actor with a renowned speaking voice. So it's no surprise Curry was brought on board to parody the Professor character. Perhaps here more than anywhere else, Curry's ability to balance humor and villainy is on full display. Professor Oldman organizes a false research facility so he can hang out with college girls and research paranormal activity. The role itself is the perfect level of absurd for Curry. Making his first appearance dressed as a Girl Scout, Curry promised hilarity with his characterization of Mr. Jigsaw from the get-go. Making a parody of all the buddy cop movies, Curry, who has a natural accent for most action movie villains, ironically went the other way and made his character German. This adds another layer of humor to the role simply for his pronunciation of microfilm. His British manners are still visible though, when he politely moves himself inside the chalk lines when meeting his demise. For the film adaptation of the 1974 book, The Worst Witch, Curry adds witchcraft to his resume of horror in his role as the Grand Wizard. Bringing somewhat of a Dracula vibe to his character, complete with a bat bow tie, and laced with a bit of David Bowie's influence, Curry uses his powerful singing voice and charming dance moves to enchant the witches. It's a shame he didn't get a teaching job at Hogwarts. Making only a small appearance, but playing the devilishly charming British brother of Lyle Finster, John Cleese, Tim Curry makes a humorous yet familiarly devilish appearance as Marion Finster. Marion flies in to attend his brother's wedding, making dark jokes about their father's demise and flirting with the bride. Cleese and Curry are two of very few actors who are renowned in British culture for Oscar-worthy comedy, so as small as his role is in this notable American sitcom, it's certainly worth watching Curry play Cleese's father. Making his comic movie debut, not as the Clown Prince of Gotham unfortunately, Curry plays the feeble-minded Farley Claymore, a right-hand man to the main antagonist, Shiwan Khan, descendant of Genghis. Initially alluding to the idea that he is only assisting his master due to mind control, it is eventually revealed that he is nothing more than a pathetic scourge of the criminal underbelly. With Curry's delightful facial expressions in this somewhat small role, he gives a delightful manic twist to the Runt-like character. This is best demonstrated when he lets out that signature roaring laugh before being fooled into taking his own life. In The Pebble and the Penguin, Curry voices the villainous Penguin Drake, an absolutely narcissistic character with his eyes set on the hero Hubie's girl. Curry's empowering vocals add another level of stature to the exaggeratedly muscle-bound Penguin. For a movie that received mixed reviews not only from the audience but also from the directors, who went so far as to request they be uncredited for the animated feature, one thing is certain, Curry nails the voice of Drake, making him obnoxiously infectious, and it's no surprise, he nails the musical numbers too. Over the Garden Wall is a dark comedy, fantasy drama, a genre Tim Curry is more than familiar with. He plays Auntie Whispers, the young Lorena's guardian who has sworn to protect her from becoming bad. Lorena is possessed by a demon, and Auntie Whispers has the difficult task of keeping the demon at bay. Her unsettling appearance and strict behavior, however, makes the others believe she is evil, a characteristic Tim Curry is very comfortable portraying. Using his sinister tone, he convinces us that Auntie Whispers is a bad, cannibalistic eater of children. In a reversal of his previous characters, such as Pennywise or Rooster Hannigan, he gradually reveals that Whispers is a hero. Like our content? Make sure to follow us.